Peterson phase, because you see, I'm a 100% zero kind of guy.
100% zero.
We were talking about put investing in different things, right? So I'm the guy that shows up and is giving 100% to this one thing,
or 0% to 100% of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Exactly.
Focused or not? Got it. Napa, Jordan.
That screen time thing, though, that reminded me. One thing I was really excited about when we first started meeting was you and Casey, when it was just, we were like the principals, and we were getting into like, because Peterson talks a lot about like kids and raising kids and being parents, right? And kind of like that view, and we started getting that a little bit, but then we totally strayed from that. But I was like,
we did.
That's a direction. It just reminded me.
Well, what did you want to talk about regarding that?
Well, I mean, it's because parenting is very important to me at this point in my life, right? Because
it's the only thing to me. Yeah.
And
I think all
like,
three of us, right? I mean, Ryan, do you guys
I wasn't excluding you, but I was just originally it was just
parent.
Three of us that were the parents.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was hoping because my interpretation of Peterson is like, well, it's kind of like the chapters are like, treat your kids like you or whatever. Like, I haven't.
Well, don't let your kid do something
you
don't like.
It's very family oriented.
Could you grab my blue pen over there?
That's what I'm saying. Even you see the chapters is 2 kids, and every chapter is 2 children.
Yeah,
right?
It's him and his brother, right? I think.
No, it's a boy and a girl. I thought.
They're Canadian, so I don't know.
I thought he just Oh my gosh, you guys know who JonTron is?
Oh yeah, he came back with Flex Tape too.
I saw that too. JonTron was my favorite YouTuber. Gotta be. But I was trying to get people to watch him, but no, it's like giving out YouTube recommendations is like,
very hit or miss.
What's the word? Like, those people like trying to talk about the church of those people that handed out flowers at airports.
Who was that? Yeah, an airplane. They made a joke about that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue now. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say Shriners, but that's not right at
all.
No,
it's not. Like, it wasn't the Shriners.
Yeah, they're not Moonies. They're Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
That's it.
Yeah, giving out YouTube recommendations is like giving out Hare Krishna flowers. People are like, oh yeah, I'll check out that YouTube channel. Yeah, no, sounds great. Oh, they take apart cars and put them back together. Yeah, I'll watch it.
One friend group, they're like, oh, you gotta check this out. The funny thing on the face. Their first one's really funny, and they're like, oh, then you gotta see this, and you're like, oh, well, that was a miss. And you're like, here, I got it, guys. This cracked all my friends up, and you send that your own. They're like, what the?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, well, I tried.
Best I can figure, though, that's just what comes from a service that's designed around like a solo viewer. Like, nobody watches YouTube in groups. Everybody just...
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So, good evening. Welcome.
This is our first attempt at a podcast, but it's actually the third recorded podcast episode.
Don't look for the fourth.
Tonight, we're going to hopefully cover a little bit about Rule 9. Assume the person you are listening to might know something you don't. But we have Dallas rejoining us, our wonderful host. And we're going to probably catch up on a few things, too.
Yeah. So I've been sort of out of action lately. I'm taking a hiatus from the group and doing some personal reflection. So I haven't been around too much, but you guys texted me up tonight, and I thought I might come over and because I've actually been at a pretty good place and thinking about coming back, and so here I am, and we're talking about Rule 9 tonight, right. You guys want to start by talking about last week?
I have to assume that you have something of value to bring to me. That's what Rule 9 is about.
Right? Yeah.
I'm assuming that the person I'm listening to might know something that I don't.
That's it.
That's right.
Dallas? All right.
A wise man always used to say to me, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Gotcha.
So are we making asses of ourselves? No, that's not the question for tonight.
Let's make some asses tonight.
I think, I kind of think that's a good point. Right, and I think that kind of came up in our group discussion about the assumption part of this. That was, it's hard to assume the best in other people, and this is kind of assuming the best. Are you making an ass of me because I'm assuming the best in you? Like that's really tough, and to assume the best in somebody else, and to maybe think about the fact that somebody else is assuming the best in you. I mean that makes me want to do better.
Wait, so you're saying that like other people, you're assuming people out there are assuming the best in you, so why not you assume the best in them? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of the other way around. So, like,
if you assume the best in other people, then they'll assume better in you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you don't try to have a conversation where you're trying to one-up with them,
Mm-hmm.
you'll kind of create like a safer conversation where they're going to be more open to you and open to your ideas. But if you're trying to prove them wrong or try to take them down a peg, then...
I'm not assuming that they're trying to change my opinion or my mind on something. I'm assuming that what they know and what they're telling me that they know, they've learned, they've hard-earned it.
You have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know something about what they're talking about.
They're not trying to screw me over.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just standing there trying to say, like, no, what you're doing is stupid and you should, walk off a short pier or whatever. They're trying to tell me what they've learned, lessons that they've learned, and shortcuts to me. And that's what I'm trying to do to other people when I talk to them. Like, when I'm trying to share something with somebody and trying to help improve what they're doing, that's what I'm doing.
Abraham Lincoln said that I can learn from everyone, even if it's what's not to do.
Yeah.
Are you saying that, like, Rule 9 is kind of like a recipe for making that happen?
I think so. I think it's like, I have this model of the world, and by you telling me there's something wrong with my model, I have to give you the benefit of the doubt because there might be something wrong with my model.
But that's so hard, right?
How can I be so sure?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I have a lot of life experience and I should trust myself.
You've modeled it. You've got this model.
But if you're not open to a better model, you're not going to get a better model.
Right. But that's so hard because you've built this thing, and it's like, you've put so much effort into building this model, and you've put so much effort into, like, testing it and trying it and making sure that it works and it's true. And then somebody else comes in and says, well, but my model says that, like, this little part, this doesn't work so well. Like, but I've done this. Like, this is what I want. It's just that, and then that's what drives the friction, I think. Instead of just saying, well, shit, yeah, tell me what your new little tweak is. And then let me try that in my model. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And if it does work, then great.
And language is so hard. We usually just say, no, you're wrong.
Right, because we don't want our model to be broken down.
Yeah, and it takes a while to drill down to those little nuances to what exactly is different. You guys almost have to compare notes to get down to that part of the conversation where you can say, okay, so that's what you saw happen in your life and why that's different. This is what I saw, and then you both have to go back and
But nobody has those notes.
Well, and it's so hard to articulate, too. Language is not an easy thing. You have to be precise, which is the next chapter,
right.
and really understand and have a good grasp on language. I know when you're faced with chaos, sometimes you only have your feeling part of your mind. You only have feelings to go on. Like, you feel anxiety, you feel uncomfortable. There's just something wrong with his model. I can't put my finger on it. Yeah. And you might need to sleep on it and really think about it and have that other part of your brain think about it, and then the next day you wake up and you're like, you know what I didn't like about his model? It was this. I mean, it's not always instant, and I think that takes a while to learn.
And it's really difficult to take that time to learn that instead of just react at it. Like when somebody challenges your model and you are no longer your model's no longer accurate or as accurate as you thought it would be. It's so hard to take that input for me.
Yeah, and if you insult them or be defensive about your model, that can put the whole conversation in a different footing where it's all about status.
Yep.
And then you're not really, either of you are seeking truth.
You just said something interesting. I wonder if you'd be okay with exploring it.
All right.
It was you said that's what's really hard for me. I think up until then we were kind of talking generally, but then when you said that, you were like. It seemed like you were like you thought of something where it was like, yeah, I do say that no, I do have trouble.
It is. I do. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I have trouble. I think it feels kind of counterintuitive, or it feels counter natural, right? It feels like it's a higher level of thought is required with myself to do these things with other people, to allow other people's models to change my model. It requires me to slow down primarily. Like the biggest thing I have to do is slow down. If I react quickly, it's with emotion and it's with like resistance to change and resistance to adapting my model based on somebody else's model. But if I slow down and I think about it, then I can say, yeah, your model enhances mine, and mine can enhance yours. I'm like, that's awesome. But it's definitely a slow down, and it's definitely hard to slow down. It's easier. The easiest thing to do is say, nope, you're wrong. This is the way I'm doing it, and this is the way it's been working for me.
I'm trying to think if this is one of the situations where we could, if you could remember like an example, or if it's like one of the situations where coming at it from this angle is going to actually make it impossible to remember an example. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, but...
I don't have a specific one, but maybe we can think about that for a bit, and if it comes up, we'll bring it up later.
I'll think about it.
I was going to say that, I know that when I'm really busy, when someone tries to challenge my models, then it's like you give that short defensive, response, like, I don't want to even get into this right now. Like, absolutely not. You're just stupid or whatever. You can get very defensive just because of how much stress or how many things you're juggling. You're not always in a place to, ready for debate. You kind of have to pick and choose your battles because your partner matters, right? If this person's open to debate and discussing and exploring it, if this person good at articulating ideas, you don't want to throw your pearls before swine. And I think it also made me think of something we discussed in the group this week too about all of these rules. Really, it's not really specifically about this rule, is that each of these rules is kind of easy to do, but they're also very hard to remember to practice. It's like you actively have to try to implement these in your life and integrate them into your personality, and it takes effort and practice before they become like second nature. It takes a lot of practice, and that's it's very hard to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, especially when you're running around with your head cut off, and you have to develop the language of saying, well, I think we should pick this up later, but I don't necessarily agree with you. But I don't have the time to discuss this now. Maybe we should get a cup of coffee later or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard. Yeah, I feel like that's just more of slowing down. It's really hard to slow down. And it's not that like the other person is incapable of keeping up to speed or whatever. It's not that. It's the like removing the emotion from it and just really literally just slowing down, which is, let's talk about this over coffee later.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, too. It's like focus, too. You have to realize that these models are important enough to spend some time to reflect on and think about, even with other people, and to make that time. Let's put some time in your schedule to have that cup of coffee with them, because if their model's better, it's going to help you get ahead in life. And I feel like leadership, or I don't know what it is, people enlighten people or self-help people, people that are seeking to improve themselves.
It's all to me, I totally hear that. It's like the standing on the shoulders of giants, and everybody's standing on each other's shoulders, and it's just everybody building on each other.
Yeah, and you can either try to seek betterment or say nothing has any meaning or nothing's worth doing, and then you kind of go that either downward spiral or upward spiral. You got to pick the direction you want to go.
I think one of Peterson's things is like, what's the point in the downward spiral, right? It's like there's already enough evidence that like there is a downward spiral. There are bad things or whatever, but we're here and we want to live the best life, so let's go on the upward spiral. Help each other.
Yeah, like he says, hell's a real place on earth. You can really see when someone's in hell.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah.
So, since we're kind of at a standstill here, one of my favorite parts of the chapter, when he was talking about Freud, I guess Freud was really worried about subtle expressions and subtle, facial tics or any type of response to what he's hearing. Okay. The patient might see and think that he's judged them, even if he's not. And so he made his patients look, on the couch far away, looking up, and he would sit out of their vision so they couldn't perceive any judgment. I thought that was just... I really like that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's why they have those couches, and that's why that's separate. That really put a lot of the psychotherapy together, because if you're trying to be open, I mean, if you're insecure or you're paranoid, if you think the other person's judging you, how do you create that open space, Mm-hmm. So I thought that was just two pieces of the puzzle that I really liked in the chapter connecting that. He also talked about, I guess, Freud also recommended other, was it psychoanalysts have psychoanalysts? And And I thought it was kind of like, being the producer, also being a consumer, so you get a sense of what it feels like to be on the couch.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really good for those that are trying to improve their craft to also remember to be a consumer of their craft.
If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, yeah.
So just those couple of points, which are kind of, necessarily not on topic, but just random, trivia that was in the chapter that I really liked.
Well, so I agree with you that I think it's important for the person being analyzed to not be to not have to worry about the person analyzing them like directly reacting to them.
Mm-hmm.
But then he went on in the chapter to talk about how useful it was for him to honestly react to the people he was having sessions with. So he would have a session with somebody, and he would the guy that was fairly disturbed. I forget what he was doing, but so he would sit there and he would interview him, and he would actually honestly react. And he would show the person that
the paranoid guy.
Yeah, with the paranoid guy. He would show that the way that I'm reacting is the way that people react to that statement. Like, that's why you shouldn't make that statement. Kind of is this is the way people react, and this is why you're here where you are now, is because people react the way that you say those things. So there's value in seeing the direct reaction. Mm-hmm. So like the Freudian thing, like I think it's why not both, right? If you have somebody that would be better served by not being directly reacted at, then cool. Look at the. I think both.
Yeah, there's probably a time and place for both. I think that makes a lot of sense depending on what strategy. But the paranoid guy was really cool. I like that too, because he was talking about when he said something wrong, Peterson would say, "Hey, that's wrong. That makes me feel uncomfortable."
Yeah.
It wasn't coming from a place of fear, like, "Oh, I better go tell someone. I better not show that I feel off kilter." No, he was just very transparent, which increased the honesty, and the guy picked up on it. It reminds me of the chapter earlier, I think, where he's talking about the drunk guy coming to his door, and instead of buying his microwave, he was like, "No, dude, you're making my wife feel uncomfortable, and you're really scaring her, and I'm not going to buy your microwave because you told me you want me to help you stop drinking."
Right.
And not only did the drunk guy remember that conversation the next day, but the relationship even got better.
Yeah.
So
truth.
Yeah, these little instances of truth really can help you get out of really seemingly difficult spot where you might, enter fight or flight, where you want to run or defend yourself or not show your cards. It's really interesting how truth gets you out of those.
Can either of you guys think of someone you hate right now?
Ooh. How many degrees removed?
Like a specific person or a group of people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, how about someone you deal with?
Okay. I can think. I have a boss. I told a story at the group that I have some problems with a boss this week. I have multiple bosses. But he decided to throw away a lot of my code that I worked very hard on because I don't know why, but I feel kind of betrayed and backstabbed by him, though we're still friends. But definitely, I don't know if it crosses into hate because we're still friends, but definitely I feel betrayed. So that could be a form of hatred.
What is it that you want out of that in that relationship?
Well, I wish he would have told me or communicated better, or and educated me like it should look like this, or just been more communicative instead of feeling that it needs to be extracted with a scalpel. That would have been nice if I was given the opportunity to fix it instead of it just being thrown away.
Well, and what's preventing that from happening? What's preventing you from communicating that to him?
I have tried to verbalize it. He is about half my age, so he's a lot younger, a lot more inexperienced. And he is like a genius artist. Mm-hmm. So he's always on the edge of sanity, irrational at it. So it's tough. It's really great to work with someone that smart, but at the same time, you get everything that comes with that. Mm-hmm. So it's just maybe different personality or just, different perspectives. And, he feels that everything needs to be of a certain quality. However, he's got his own set of standards and completely ignores other standards. So it's very hard to guess what's going to be accepted and what's not.
I was just wondering, how would you feel if I said that there's something you could learn from him?
Oh, I absolutely believe there's something I can learn from him. And like his bosses came to me because they saw what happened, and they're like, is he okay? What's going on? And I was like, well, here's a situation. Do I tell the truth that I think he's a crackpot and that they're in serious trouble? But he's also my friend, so I don't want to sell out my friend either, you know. So I thought about it for a bit, and during the group, I talked about this too, because I just need every ounce of brain power on this to help me, because I didn't want to hurt my relationship with him and like throw him under the bus. But at the same time, you know, Peterson's like, the truth will save you. So I had to really think about all the different layers this is operating on. You know, what's the truth they're trying to ask? What truth are they getting for, you know, they're a company and they need certain results. So I started looking past their surface question and really to what questions they're asking, you know, why they're asking, the root question maybe. So
you were like giving the right answer.
I was trying to do truth at a different level, I think. And maybe I was just, you know, should have told them that he was unstable. But actually I did both. I said, here, I don't necessarily have all the answers, but I think you guys shouldn't come down hard on him. I think he really has some issues. But as long as we focus on what he's interested in, what you're interested in, when those overlap, you know, as long as it's a win-win for both groups, that's what we should all put our efforts into. You know, really listen to him when he's talking about what he's interested in, and, you know, rectify those with our business goals moving forward. And that way we can, even if we are two separate entities, we can work together to make a successful conclusion. And I think that was the root question, right? Is he good? Is he bad? Should we fire him? You know, the root question is like, you know, can we work? Will this happen? Can we make this, you know, these milestones?
So you're saying that you acted sort of like as a facilitator for the situation in terms of you had in mind the superior boss's best interest and your younger artist boss's best interest, and kind of like smoothed over the situation so that we could get through and not make this situation. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I was trying to navigate, you know, telling the truth and you know, having some type of compromise in the middle. But I think I ultimately told them what I was feeling and what I was thinking. But I had to really meditate on it a bit. I didn't immediately answer him, and I think that was probably to my benefit. And they seemed a little off, like they wouldn't really want to talk about it with me. They like asked a question. I said I was kind of like busy, and when I kind of probed them about it, they might have been busy or something. But then when someone asked me about, well, how's work going this week, I was just like, I've been avoiding it because I was still recovering from what happened. And then we started talking about it.
Really? Like emotionally, like you like couldn't put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, how do I still contribute to the project with, you know, do I know my future code's going to be ripped out? You know, how do I want to proceed? Do I even want to waste any time? Luckily,
so there's some unresolved issues there with you, at least, and him and the artist.
Yeah, well, and I have to ask myself questions too. Do I want to put myself in a position where I go through that again? You know, there's once shame on me, twice or three times, and that's shame on me, right? Once shame on him, something. Yeah. There's some saying along those lines.
Call it George W. Yeah, right. I'm wondering, what did that meditation look like? You said you had to meditate on it.
I had to think about it and talk to other people, like bring it up in the group and just talking about it out loud to actually help organize some of my thoughts, and probably doing the same again tonight.
Yeah,
but
articulating it
gets me to the next level where I can interact with everyone. But
so then you think this facilitator, you know, slash, I guess you haven't said what you're doing to feel comfortable going back and coding more yet, but is this strategy working? Is this the good strategy, or do you still feel like
my solar plexus, like my sixth sense, right?
Okay.
I don't feel weakened by this experience. I feel like I gave my company who's paying me money, I gave them something of value, and I'm still bringing something to my friend of value. I'm still trying to keep his interest in heart. I didn't necessarily do anything. I tried to keep his interest, you know, the win-win, and give him hopefully more time where we can learn from each other. That was the other thing too, is like it's like I told the boss men, you know, I don't think we need to change anything. Let's just keep on the straight and narrow, and, you know, give us more time to learn to work together better. And so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt in that he can learn and grow, and hopefully I can learn to write better code too. You know, it's also a critique, I think, in some ways. So.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I mean, because code is art too. right? I mean, it's not there are millions of ways to code the same thing. Mm-hmm. The way that you code something is artistic.
Well, and there's values too. The way how I might value things, you might have a completely set of values, or it could be the same list of values but in different priority.
Exactly.
And that can really affect like you said, the output. So,
yeah.
And like I said, like where there can be high quality standards, my high quality standards and your high quality standards are going to vary.
Right.
So
that's a major thing to have that kind of rug pulled out from underneath you, like. I'm taking your code. I'm deleting it.
Yeah, well, and then it's like you said, it's like artistry, so it's kind of like my baby. He chucked my baby in the river.
Yeah. Without so much as a consultation, without so much as a conversation on the way about it, like, right? Like, wouldn't that be nice to be able to talk to him about, like, goals?
Yeah, I wish he would give me a bit of the doubt and opportunities to fix it. The list goes on, and I don't want to get too much into the details or whatever, but it's like I now have a child that I know will never make it in the big leagues, and it's like, do I delete my child or do I actually keep it as a side project? You know, there's all these other decisions I have to make in the aftermath because I did invest some of me and some of my time, and now I know things about this code that like might be useful in the other parts of the world, and so.
And that's what we're doing here. You know, it's kind of the essence of Rule 9 is therapy as mechanic, you know, to make it go again. And I think that's kind of what's going on in Rule 9 is like how to organize your thoughts so that you can go forward maximally or most effectively or whatever's the best way to go forward in the world, right? And so that's at least me. That's what I'm trying to do is I was trying to present an opportunity where that could, you know, happen. So
yeah, it's a good connection. How connected it all back to Rule 9.
Yeah,
good way.
The one thing I find really interesting about Rule 9, at least my interpretation on it, is that there's like a second level to it, which is, you know, it's to me it's like a guide for if in case you don't have someone you can talk to. It's a little bit about how to talk to yourself, how to listen to yourself, you know. Because there's this idea of, actually I don't think it's from Rule 9, but where he talks about the one that speaks and the one that judges, right, in terms of within ourselves.
I think it's Rule 9, where he talks about when you really think. To really think, you have to create a simulated person with personality and traits, and you gotta have two of them with different opinions, and you gotta hold that conversation in your head.
Steelman against each other.
And I think that's why we're social, and what that yields is that I can actually just be one of them.
Yeah.
Garrett can provide the other.
Yeah.
And then I can actually or think about that character more in depth than trying to balance two characters at half depth.
Right.
And it all goes back to the earlier thing we're talking about, focus.
Is that why we're steelmanning each other's, well, not each other's, but our own position? So like when you challenge something that I'm thinking about and I challenge something you're thinking about, that's why we're less likely to sway each other.
Well,
we're trying to hold on to our own positions.
Wait. Say that again. Wait. We're steelmanning each other.
Well, like
I think what happens is we get so used to trying to think for that avatar we're playing, we forgot we need to also listen and also steelman that avatar in your head. I have to steelman your avatar, and you're supposed to steelman my avatar. But I'm so used to like thinking of what this avatar is going to reply to you that I never, hey, stop. Oh, well, there's also Orion here that needs to listen and take in what Garrett says and you know, and make adjustments and make sure I understand what he's saying.
Oh, so then you're kind of saying that maybe that's why our conversations go like this in this group, because we have an understanding of that, whereas out in the real world we kind of don't. So then we just like, then we have to have patience or slow down.
Exactly. Then we have to slow down. Yeah.
See, that makes me wonder about like right now if there is, you know, when you assume. When you assume the best of someone else, you're like, it's a strategy for learning from them, right?
It is.
But then we're in here, so this is something I wonder, is we're in here and we're like permitting the assumption or something like that, right? We're allowing it, like what you just said. We're talking, we're going back and forth, and we can stop, and you know, the emotions don't rage all the time. Sometimes they do, but I wonder if there's not. What am I trying? I'm trying to say that in the real world, there's like that critical element. There's that time.
Different set of rules.
So it seems to me like we're not, like it seems to me like it would be cool if we could replicate that.
I think, like in the workplace, we can tell when someone's not being truly honest with us. They have the little tells, even though they're playing poker and bluffing. Sometimes we know when they're full of bull,
Yeah.
And so you kind of have a feeling that some people aren't always being honest, and then you don't want to teach them. You don't want to put that extra energy to remember to steel man their points. It's a lot of work.
It is. I think that's the important part, is that it's a lot of work to help others, and it's a lot of work to be helped too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different rules.
That comes back to organizing the mind, though. That's what we were talking about originally, actually. Because then, if you know where to apply your energy, then it's not wasted. It's only a lot of work if it's wasted. If it's not wasted, it comes back, and it's actually, 1 + 1 = 3. It's energy.
Yeah, you can waste a lot of time trying to help someone that doesn't want to be helped. Mm-hmm. There's people that are over helpful, and you're like, dude, it's not right now. I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah. It's like the risk of wasting time is what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to, you got to be really good at communicating. You got to be able to say, hey, look, I'm busy right now, or hey, do you really want to learn this? I mean, are you too busy right now? It's being able to take it to those and put the effort into how are you feeling now, like really paying attention and listening to them, because they might say I'm feeling fine, but you're looking at them, you're like, yeah, he's got bags under his eyes, man. There's something up.
See, you said this twice now. You said teach them, right? I wonder if we're ever supposed to teach. It depends on what you mean by that, but the meaning I'm getting from you, because it seems to me like there's this recurring theme I've read in different places where it's like people know what they're supposed to learn, and so what you're supposed to do, I feel like that's the point, is you're supposed to listen to them, and then in working it out, they see their deficiency, they become motivated, then they teach themselves.
Yeah, I'm using it as the reciprocal, since this process is about learning.
Yeah.
Then I'm kind of like just assuming that the teachers at the other end are like,
gotcha.
I'm not necessarily trying to teach Garrett but him bouncing ideas off me.
Right.
He learns something from what I said, so therefore I'm the teacher in that role. I think that's all
I'm
trying
just
to mean.
naming the role. Okay, that makes sense. Language is important.
Well, like what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also an important question.
Right. Well, because that is an important question, because I think that's the point, is that and that's the hard thing. Yeah. That's the thing that you hate yourself for doing, is when you take the time to try to instruct. You're like, I know what you're doing wrong. I've been there. I've read this. I've seen that. I've talked to somebody else who's been in the same problem. Let me tell you, and you can. I'll save you pain and time.
So how do I listen for that?
But that's
how do I hear that versus other conversation? Because that's what this is like, assume the person you're listening to might know something you don't. That's the something that you know that I don't, that I need to learn. That's what
I'm saying. That's the point, is that you're missing the critical end. Not you're missing it, but like it's that it's never to tell them. Like once you dispense with the idea that you're ever gonna tell somebody anything, then you will just listen all the time, because you're not gonna not communicate. You're always gonna communicate. But once you understand that the end is listening, then it'll come easily.
Because I totally agree. To me, this is a cheat code. Right, this is a
hack.
It is. It's a hack.
Yeah.
It's a here's something somebody can tell me that I can learn by not having to have done it myself.
Yeah, the title's like a shorthand.
Yeah. So how do I tune into that more frequently? How do I hear the valuable parts of that, right? Because people are always talking, chit-chatting, telling stories, whatever. Some things are more valuable than others, and everybody's in a hurry. How do I tune into that more?
Well, I think one of the things he said in the chapters, I mean, standard Peterson, you have your solar plexus as a sense, but I think you also kind of have like a bullshit detector, and these things kind of like take practice to listen to and develop. You got to activate all that different DNA. But in the chapter, he was talking specifically about listening to the person, like trying to remember what it was, but there's different types of listening, like you said, when they're trying to seek status, when they're in that conversation where they're more important about being right than getting you to believe or understand. Like they're not there to educate you, they're there to
fail.
Yeah, I think that he tried to give a lot of good examples of how that's maybe a good way to sense whether you're in a conversation on the way or not.
Yeah. Okay. So identify those types of conversations that are not useful, constructive, whatever, and
the people that aren't there to teach. I would go back to my teacher metaphor. If they're there to make you look bad, make them look better.
No, that's useful because that's it's easy to identify those conversations and to know when that's happening. Just avoid.
Yeah, disengage. When the bully's trying to pick on you to see if you're weak, if you just ignore him, he's lost all his power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have an idea.
Go for
What's
it.
your idea?
I've been having a lot of trouble, like, trying to eat well. I just can't stop eating carbs, and it's like I get up and, just like, I do pretty good for most of the day, but then, it's like around lunchtime I start to get hungry, and then, like, sometimes I'll get busy, so I'll skip lunch, and then it's like 2 o'clock, I'll get, like, real hungry.
So good.
And then, it's hard because I'm, like, really suffering from it. Like, I really want to get started on a diet, and I'll start a diet and I'll go good for like 2 days, but I just can't keep it going. You know what I mean? Like I just hit that wall and I crash. And then it's like I'll do what I'm supposed to do, but then I'll skip a meal and then I'll get really hungry and then I'll be like, well, I'll just have, I'll just get a pita. I'll get the fries, and then before you know it, I'm at like Wendy's and I'll take a Frosty with that.
Yeah.
One thing comes to mind is like Jerry Seinfeld's, one of his tricks that's famous is he made a calendar. You find a calendar, you put X's on every day you practice what you want to practice. Like for him, it was like write a joke every day. And he said you wouldn't believe the chain effects. As soon as you get 3 X's in a row, how you feel on that 4th day. You're like, I could break it today, but man, I almost got that 4th X. And you can start racing yourself. Like, I know I can get up to 5, but that 6th one, I wonder if I can get past that 6th one today.
You don't want to break that 7th one.
Yeah.
And if heaven help you if you get 20.
Yeah.
I'm on the longest. I'm on the longest run I've ever had. I don't want to have to start this over again. But
I can't even get 4 or 5. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. 3, is that going to be motivational? I'm going to put 30 days up, and I just know it's not going to work for me.
Well, that's fair. I mean, it's just one trick. On the Thursday, there's a lot of different motivational tricks, but ultimately, you got to figure out what works for you. And I think a lot of it's just practice. I mean, you got to try a lot of stuff before you figure out what does and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And then once you know yourself, you can hopefully, figure out, how to get there. I know as a creative person, like I have this concept I use a lot called the muse. Like, if I have trouble like doing my work or trying to create something, like as an artist, I'll go back to a muse. Like if I listen to 8-bit Nintendo music, that's gonna like make me want to develop games like nobody's business. So if I'm trying to build a game, I'll go to my 8-bit Nintendo music. If I want to build better podcasts, guess what I'm going to be watching? I'm going to be watching other podcasts that make me want to build podcasts afterwards.
So kind of like good in, good out.
Yeah, I kind of figure out what inspires me or where I get energy from, and then I just have to make a note of it and go back to it when I need it. And that's the tougher part is to figure out, this piques my interest or this really makes me want to do something.
Right.
And I know myself pretty good though, and I'm not really like a practice person. I'm like I need to encounter that good idea that like motivates me, and then I'll do it. You know what I mean? I need that good idea first, and then that motivation. And then the motivation will like get me started. I just haven't found like there's no good ideas. I've been looking, I've been reading books and listening to like podcasts on dieting and nutrition, and it's just like I don't think the practice thing is like, I mean maybe it works for other people, but it doesn't work for me. It's like I kind of just have to, if it doesn't work, like if I don't get past that 3rd day, then I know it wasn't a good idea. It was, and so then it's like there's no amount of like practice that's going to get me through to that 4th X or that 5th X. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I guess you could do like the root cause analysis, which is ask yourself why 5 times. So you take, why are you on a diet? And then whatever the answer to that is, you ask why that, and then you just keep going. And it's really hard because you can get to like the 2nd or 3rd and all of a sudden be like, I don't know. You really have to stop and think about that until you get down to that 5th cause, and then you understand why you really think you should be on a diet, having all those questions answered. Yeah. And so while you might not be able to find motivation for a diet, you might find a motivation for looking better or feeling better, whatever is underneath that. I know that might be another tool.
No, that's great insight. So for me personally, low carb diet, not quite ketogenic, but close. Like that's what I kind of aim for. for me personally, like, you know, I've tried diets before, I've tried exercise before, I've tried just being good about what I eat, like, tried all kinds of stuff before. But really, the only thing that actually worked, and now we're going on 2 years now that I've lost 50 pounds or whatever, I read a book called The Case Against Sugar, Gary Taubes. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast. Mm-hmm. And it literally was science. It was, carbs are bad for you. If you want to die, eat carbs. If you want to live longer, stop eating so many carbs. And I was at a point in my life, I think this is also crucial, I was at a point in my life where just had a daughter and got a wife and a house and a family, and I want to live as long as I can possibly live. So that's lurking in the back of my mind. You know, I always want to be here. And then I read this book, I listen to this interview where you can live longer. Like, it's science. Like, the science we've all listened to is just bad science. We shouldn't be eating these shelf-stable carbs. Like, if it's on the shelf and it can be there for a year, you shouldn't be eating it. It's just not good for you. Like, you know, and here's all these things that you can eat and that are good for you. And
yeah, but it's just calories in, calories out.
It's not.
If you eat less calories.
It's literally not. It's not calories in, calories out. It's that factors in. That's a part of it. Yeah. But it's not that simple of an equation.
It's a low resolution representation.
Super low resolution. It's not calories in, calories out.
But if you want to lose weight, you just eat less calories, then...
You can, but then you're an asshole and you're starving yourself. And you're eating, you know, tortillas or whatever. You're eating bready things, carby things, and your body is getting all this quick energy, like right now, super fast, and then no energy, and now I'm either tired or I need more food, and now you're getting either fatter or you're exercising less.
And being on keto, I've been on keto for almost a year now. Hunger and starve and eating carbs, what hunger and full, are completely different things to me now. Like yep. I can never tell when I'm hungry now, and I can never tell when I'm starving. But when I eat a lot of carbs, like on a cheat day, man, I can feel it, and it sits on me. It's interesting how much different sensation you have and you develop. Because when you like have carbs and you need that sugar and your body's craving those carbs again, it's a completely different hunger than like
way different
my keto hunger, where I'm like, I'm not even sure if I'm hungry, but I probably should eat because I'm gonna fucking start getting tired.
I haven't had a steak in like 3 hours, so I need to eat. Yeah, that's how I feel on keto, is like, and my coworkers will go. So I'll go to lunch with my coworkers, for example, and like we'll go to Habit Burger. Okay, I get a lettuce wrapped burger and I just cut it up and I have basically a cheeseburger salad, and it's awesome, and a cup of soda water.
Yeah, awesome. I tried a bunch of diets. I bought a $2,000 treadmill. I used to be in track. I used to be very athletic, so I was going to run on the treadmill. I was going to lose all this weight. Didn't matter what the diet was. Didn't matter how much I exercised. I still wasn't losing it fast enough, or I was like putting way too much effort in it. The key to it was I love fast food. I can't stop fast food, man. Fast food's my fucking favorite thing. I don't know what it is. I just like rolling up to the drive-thru and be like, feed me, Seymour. You know,
engineering.
Yeah, there's something about the quick trip. I don't have to get out of the car. I'm super lazy.
Yep.
And something about that whole process. When I found a diet that let me eat fast food, I've lost almost 80 pounds now. So
is that fucking awesome.
Wow.
So it was marrying, like you said, figuring out the requirements for you and what you can do to work around those. I think it's so easy to get fast food in this day and age, and I think a lot of millennials are just, their lives are so busy. It's like if you don't have a diet where you can grab a quick bite somewhere, you're doomed to fail it.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at Starbucks, coffees that are they're just all sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's sugar, man.
Starbucks isn't a cafe; it's a dessert factory.
No, it's a milkshake. Enjoy your milkshake.
Just like Jamba Juice, it's a dessert place.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to label it right in your head.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of drinks you can get without any sweetener, or you can get the sugar-free sweetener if you really need something.
Hey, man, almost every morning it feels like I go and get my venti blonde with heavy cream. They put the heavy cream in the back. It's whipping cream.
And the heavy cream makes it feel like a meal. It helps you fill you up. It really does.
That's my breakfast. Literally, I have an inch of heavy cream in my coffee, and I'm good. Like,
yeah, and I've become a tea aficionado. I love all sorts of teas
tea
now.
Tea is awesome, yeah.
There's
Tea's
also good to teas. I mean, before, when you started, I was like, that's just flavored water. But later, you're like, yeah, this is the best flavored water today. I'm going to try this one.
Yeah.
So, you just got to find out what you like and work in the structure. And
so the back and forth on the diet thing for me was just science. It's just, do you want to live longer? I do. Okay, well, the science says stop eating sugar and carbs. That was it.
Yeah, no grains, no sugars.
That was not even, I just read that and I was like, all right, well, that's just a fact. So, this USDA, food pyramid, it's literally bullshit, and it's actually based on false science.
Right.
Yeah, there's a documentary called, was it Fat Brain? That was a response to Super Size Me.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was interesting because he was like, well, I can go to fast food every day and eat. And he explained, fats and sugars and all how it worked. But I thought that was one of the things I really liked was like, you have one science, Super Size Me, that says, oh, look at how bad fast food is and all this stuff. And this other guy was like, no, it's about choice. It's about what you choose to eat. And you actually can make healthy choices in these places. Yeah. And I guess maybe that's what led the seed in my mind that later I could find a diet that would.
There you go.
Okay. 2 things.
Yeah.
Number 1 is we were talking about I can't remember exactly. I don't know what to call it, but we were talking about the idea of learning versus teaching, casting your pearls before swine, and listening, right? And so I had this idea where I've had this idea. It's actually interesting because I've never really practiced it before, and this was the first time. I call it vice signaling, right? And so I just signaled like a vice, and then I let you guys take the bait. And I was thinking maybe I could signal this vice and see if you guys would take the bait and go into sort of like teaching, helping, instructing, non-listening mode.
So this was your struggle with your diet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so right now, because you were saying, how do I slow it down?
Yeah.
How do I pay attention? I was thinking maybe if we could do this and I could stop right now, that maybe you guys could pay attention to the somatic markers.
I love
and the emotional markers or whatever. Like, how are you feeling right? I wonder how you guys are feeling right now.
Well, as soon as you said you needed help with something, I wanted to show you how I wanted to help you. I wanted to tell you where my successes were.
And I can think in my help to you, I even vice signaled. I think I made some comment about being lazy. I would consider that.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite vices is being lazy.
Yeah, and I said that I've thought about it many different ways before, and this is what worked, and I tried to I tried to give you a lesson based on my own experience.
Because honestly, everything you guys said,
good call, man.
Like I know that, and I believe that.
Good call.
Right? I'm ketogenic. I know this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And it was interesting. It was like you guys were giving. So that's the second thing.
Awesome.
So the second thing, and so I guess if you guys could pay attention to what happened there, maybe you could. It might help. You were talking about that. It might help you to slow it down and pay attention because that's like, according to what I understand from Rule 9, that's the wrong thing to do.
Really, I think it's the opposite of Rule 9.
What do you mean?
Well, you said it's not what Rule 9 said, right? It's a different way to get to teach and learn.
I'm confused about what you're saying right now, but what I'm saying is that what you guys did in helping me was the opposite of Rule 9. Because Rule 9 should have been about listening.
Well, I guess from whose context? Because you believed we had something to offer, so you asked us, basically. Right. So you practiced Rule 9.
Yeah, I think we just responded.
I did, but I was baiting you guys. I was trying to be somebody that you might not listen to. And you just responded, which is the problem. Because when we're in that situation in life, we just respond.
Maybe we didn't ask him enough questions. Like, we should have really dug down. Like, maybe I should actually have him answer all those whys to drill down to really help him. And instead of giving him advice, which he does talk about in the chapter.
You and I already thought that our answer was better than whatever you could possibly offer as your
I wasn't offering anything.
Yeah, he wasn't. You didn't even say he had something to offer either.
What?
You could have had something to offer.
I could have.
But we would never know.
Well, if he had
because you guys went into
Well, if he had something to offer, it would have been bad because he's asking us to help clarify it, so we wouldn't even be interested in it because by his own judgment, it's not worth sharing.
Right. So that's a good point. That's a good observation because that's something that happens subconsciously.
Yeah, I know there's something about like when I create art projects or work or whatever. It's like it doesn't matter how smart I made it unless if I tell everyone what I did inside, it makes it really cool. no one's going to think it's cool. Like, I have to actually tell the world, not only that I made it, but there's these cool things inside of it too. Like, you can't just build it and they will come. You have to advertise it. You have to say, hey, look, I do have something. It works sometimes, but maybe you guys can make it better. Like, if he presented the question that way, we would be more curious about, well, what are you doing?
Right.
True.
So I think what should have happened was it should have been like somehow it should have been you guys asking me questions that would have led me to like kind of explain my position and then be like, oh, you know what? This is what's wrong with me and this is what I need to do. And this is where I've messed up in the past. Thanks. And it's like where Peterson says that, I forget what he says, but it's like, oh, you can sound pretty smart if you just shut up.
Yeah, and what Ryan and I did was offer advice instead of listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. If you could pay attention to the somatic markers, how you're feeling, your emotions, what your thought was. If you could, what is that called in psychology, where it's like you break everything down. Anyway, it's what Peterson believes, it's the kind of therapy he talks about all the time when he says when somebody's. Anyways, I can't remember what that kind of therapy is, but yeah, because if you can go back, if you can go back to where it splits, that's where you're gonna make the. So then the second thing.
But I think the roles are a little different too. We're not your psychotherapist. We're not here to give you therapy.
But I think it's a point well proven.
Oh yeah, it was interesting. But
I agree.
I still wonder about the roles too. Like, you'd have to think about why someone goes to a psychotherapist and then you also have to answer the question like, what are we doing here? What are our relationships? What are our roles? I mean, that's so ill defined too. If we knew, maybe that isn't our role right now. We're supposed to be each other's psychotherapist. I don't know.
That's a deeper, more profound question. Yeah.
It's more about the identity of the podcast than anything.
It's less about being each other's psychotherapist and being more of a psychotherapist mindset individually. Mm-hmm. Like, right, so we should all just have this open mind. Like, you just... Like, that was a great illustration. That was a really great, striking illustration that makes me want to pay more attention to both of what you have to say in the future. Mm. And it makes me want to kick in less of my advice to you in the future.
Yeah.
Like I now just want, like, next time you guys talk, I just want to think about, like, well, what are they telling me now? Like, what should I be listening to?
The next podcast can be silent.
That's you're answering his question, because it sounds like maybe you're thinking that's your motive for all conversations a little bit. Like, you want to come out the best.
It's not my motive for all conversations, but I think it's a good motive to have in any given conversation. Yeah. Like, I'm not only going to talk to you if I think I can get something out of you, but I think if I'm talking to you, I should keep in mind, like, maybe I can get something out of you.
Yeah, when you're asking a question, it's better to make sure I seek his truth, what question he's really asking.
Yeah.
By pulling out as much of and try to get him to think on it. I guess is what Peterson's trying to say, right? The more I can pull out, the more you can think and postulate on. You might actually answer all your questions because you have way more information about your situation, your context, and your thing than I ever will.
Yeah. The analogy is how much do you trust the doctor who prescribes before he diagnoses? Mm-hmm. Right, because you don't know what my particular roadblock is with my diet. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm giving you all this advice about what worked for me, but I haven't listened to what worked and didn't work for you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was really well illustrated. Honestly,
thank you.
Like that. Yeah, that was good.
Well, I didn't just come up with it, so but I have been thinking about it for a while. But that makes me think of the second thing. So then. And now that I know it works, the second thing I would do, the real vice I would signal, which is truly a problem I'm having. I don't know if vice signaling is the right way to think of it, but it's like, I can't organize my mind. I don't know where we're at for time, but that's what I wish I had.
Probably another 5 minutes before we've done a streamed an hour.
Okay. That's profound to me that it worked, and then so I'm saying that would be the real thing. I don't know how to organize my mind.
Why don't you think your mind is organized?
Right. Yeah. I'm not.
No, that's a great question. Why do we think it's organized? What makes you think it's unorganized?
Because that's a great question. I knew the question and I hadn't thought about it. Because I don't know. Jesus.
Well, take a second. Organize
it. I guess one example is I have a mission statement, and it's like I keep reorganizing it. or no, that's not a good example. A better example is prioritization, right? My vital function. I don't know what my vital function is, and I get caught up between too many vital functions, which actually comes back to what we were talking about first. So it's like for example, I just took on a consulting job for a new company, but at the same time, I need to focus on building out my property management company. I need to finish. I should finish that first, but now I've taken on two, and now I'm burning the candle at both ends.
Right.
And I feel like it's because my mind's not organized, because I feel like I made this bad decision because I didn't look at my priorities, because something happened and I went, okay, I can take on this consulting gig and finish that gig, but I can't. I clearly can't.
So because your mind's not organized, that leads to your work selection to not be organized, and you have priorities all over the place because of these two different worlds.
Right. Yeah. And I can't figure out how to reconcile them because I don't trust the priorities I pick.
Why don't you trust them?
I guess it's because I don't have the stick-to-itiveness. Right? I'm not a quadrant one doer. I'm a big picture dreamer.
Yeah, I like hope too.
So have you not suffered the consequences of not following through with one of these decisions?
Yes, I've not.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think you are suffering the consequences, aren't you?
This feels like the consequence of that.
Yeah, it's causing me tremendous psychic pain.
Right.
Yeah. So what do I do?
What
I didn't mean that as a baiting, but yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah. What do I do?
You work hard, or you suffer the consequences.
Okay, so here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing right now. Actually, that's interesting. Yeah, here's what I'm doing right now. I'm picking one and I'm sticking to it. I'm getting rid of the consulting gig and I'm just gonna focus on my property management company, and I'm gonna build it out until it's like automated. And I don't know. That's what I'm working on right now, setting benchmarks for when I've decided that this is secure enough, like, that it's done. I don't need to worry about that anymore.
Why did you take on the consulting gig?
For money and my wife. Yeah.
Why does your wife want you to not run a property management company?
Because my wife wants more money.
Who doesn't?
It's an easy thing to want more of.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep taking on things for my wife. See, I lack confidence. So right now I'm feeling like I'm just like talking too much. But I keep taking on things for my wife because I've somehow convinced myself that if I dedicate myself to my wife, then like that will take care of everything else. Like, she's my partner. We're not completely in sync as partners. So I figure if I take the time and I spend the energy to get totally in sync with her, then that will serve me better in the long run, because I need her as a partner for like conceivably, I don't know, 40 or 50 or 60 more years. Right? So so I take on projects because she wants to take it on, and so I take, I believe she makes bad decisions, right? And so I would, and she won't listen to me. So I don't know, like now we're getting into like a rat's nest of problems, right? That I'm trying to work out. It's with me too, because it's like, why do I think she makes bad decisions? But then we go into these consulting gigs and, we try these ventures where, we kind of fail, but we don't stick to it and go through.
Well, it's hard to definitely fall through.
Yeah. I don't know if this is good podcast banter, but
I feel like it is.
I think it's incredibly interesting. You're being very open, sharing a lot with us.
Yeah.
It's very honest, and I think that's what people tune in for, is to hear an honest discussion, even the ones that are hard to have. And I think this is a very hard conversation to have. I don't know if I'd be able to be this open with what you're saying.
Now that we're talking about this, I'm like, ugh.
Check in the stream. Is she signed in? And
I might be sleeping at one of your guys' houses tonight.
But at the same time, maybe it's the best thing she hears it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing about honesty and communication, man, is maybe you're saying the things you can't say to her face, and maybe she hears it through this, and maybe that's the change you guys need to have sometimes. It's always weird how things happen.
Yeah. And you never know. I mean, it's hard. A lot of things you don't know you think until you say them aloud, right? I mean, speaking them aloud makes them a lot more tangible. Yeah. A lot easier to manipulate, I think.
And there's 1,000 times I want to jump in and be like, me too, the few times I did verbal.
I wonder, now that we're cued into that,
sure.
I wonder if you guys are noticing at times when you would do that, because you can pay attention to the somatic markers. I know I keep saying that, but it's like your emotions and the way you feel comes from the gut. You know, it's a subconscious thing. So you have to kind of come in through the back door.
And I feel that the pressure's so much, like, I know I have to vent. I have to release some of it. And so I'll make a comment or like, oh, yeah, me too, and roll my, feel it for that 1 second and get it out. And then I can regroup and really focus back on you. I know if I hang on to something, and that's what my notes really help me out sometimes, is I need to offload it temporarily or vent somehow. Even if it's not verbally, I can put it on paper and it's out and I can move on and do what I need to be doing.
You know, too, it's listening is not saying those things, right? And Peterson gives us an out. He says that each person can speak up for himself only after he has repeated the speaker's ideas and feelings in a way that is sufficient to the speaker. And I think what he's saying there is like you kind of repeat back the gist, right?
Right.
But then that's the moment when you can say, that's when you give the reaction that Freud is avoiding. You say, okay, you're feeling this way and this is going on. Okay, well, that's bullshit because you should do this, right? Or whatever it is.
Okay.
And then so you do get to speak. Like, that's the next step. The first step is listening, is not giving the advice. But then the second step is, like making an assertion or giving feedback.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different, I mean, like, he gives us different tools. Like he's very honest and direct and responsive to the paranoid guy.
Yeah.
Where Freud's doing something else entirely different, right? It's just all pure listening. He doesn't want to even look at you or give you details to bias you at all. He just wants to hear your pure, raw, unadulterated, high fidelity you pouring out. You know. So I think these are all different tools, and you really got to practice them and learn them, when to use them, when not. And I agree that we probably don't practice that, like shutting the hell up enough. Like it was tough. It wasn't easy to sit there and like not. Hey, I got something you could try. It's definitely a knee-jerk reaction for me. I could feel kicking in, and after you taught us that lesson earlier, it was definitely a different feeling to experience and go through that, and I think it did help me to focus and listen on you than to go off on a tangent.
And it's interesting too to go back. First of all, that's profound, right? But then to go back, it's like before when I was about the diet stuff and you guys were saying your thing, there was this little voice in the back of my head that was like, oh man, these guys don't care about me, right? Like, oh, they're just giving me their solutions, right? But then, because I'm thinking about it in juxtaposition to what I was, and it's like I feel like very like, I don't know, heard. You know what I mean? Like I feel like completely different than the first time.
Feels like it's been processed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like seeking truth. That's what the chapter was about.
Yeah. And that was, Oof.
Yeah.
Another favorite thing we talked about in the group was a line from Lord of the Rings. It said the burn hand teaches best, where we're given two options, like the path least traveled. I forgot the rest of that.
Just learning things the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to, sometimes if you don't understand why or not told why, you have to go get your hand burned. And I thought that was...
Like when I get home and my wife is watching this.
Well, like I said, it might be good too. You don't know. You might have a horrible blow-up fight where it resolves all your problems for the next 60 years.
Yeah. Well, if you guys...
Shit, man, that's terrifying.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we're kind of like cowards in the face of our happiness. It's like very scary to realize we could become what we want to become. It's terrifying.
That's one of the hardest things. Is like, look at all this opportunity. Look at all this, what you could be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say this though about my wife is that, well, you guys can imagine, knowing what you know about me, I'm a very difficult person. Can you imagine? I don't know if you guys can imagine being married to me, but we have had a lot of conversations like this and a lot of like blow up fights, like a lot. And I have noticed that my wife is, just thinking back to who she was when I met her. She's like, you know, when I met her, she was, what's one of those expressions? Like she was dough, you know, like, and then now she's like
firebrand.
Yeah, exactly. What's that expression? It's like
I
from
don't
a movie.
know.
She was like, I'm trying to think of like it's from a boot camp movie. It was like, your asses are wads of cookie dough. By the time you leave here, you're gonna be, you know,
cement or something.
Yeah, something.
Hard to steal.
But she's like, she's you know, yeah, and she's made me better for it too, you know. So.
Yeah, I think we're all deeply flawed individuals, and the thing about like marriage is finding someone that can put up with your type of flaws. Like they can tolerate. They're like blind to it or numb to it or whatever. They're used to it. And as long as you're numb to each other's flaws, that's not so bad. And like the two halves make a whole. Like you're half a person that's half crazy, and she's half sane and half crazy, and you put it together, and you hope that you don't equal a whole crazy person, right? That only the whole person.
No, man, I'm the opposite. I want to equal a whole crazy person.
Well, maybe
I don't.
Who
wants to be normal?
Yeah.
Well,
right.
I want our crazinesses to compliment. No, but I'm just.
No,
I agree. I agree exactly with what you're saying.
If you go to Peterson thing, that might be a working way to attack the world. Maybe you're both seeking chaos, and you know it's not about creating order in the world. You just want to create opportunities left and right, and all of a sudden lightning's going to strike, and you guys going to rise to the top because you just took high risk after high risk after high risk.
Well, that
and
would
it
be
paid off.
confronting chaos. That would be if you both were confronting chaos, right?
Well, I
that's what
I
I'm
just
trying
see.
to temper her for. I want us to go out into chaos.
Yeah, I see like crazy, kind of like exploring chaos. I guess is what I'm equating the two. Where like if you're a whole person and very organized, you might be very orderly, and you're organizing the chaos into very orderly things.
Yeah.
So I kind of think it was crazy and not crazy would be like order and chaos for whatever reason.
We're gonna have to get the whiteboard out and draw.
Draw the yin yang
diagram.
Yeah. The snake always gets in the walled garden.
Jesus.
That's the dot in the eye of the yin yang.
My wife and I do couples therapy, and this week, it was just this week.
We're still broadcasting. All right.
With all the other shit I said, I mean.
You can't really
you
lose
should
with
do.
this
This is a PSA. If you're not doing some sort of therapy, if you're not reading books by therapists, by couple relationship therapists, you're really missing out because you got to strengthen that relationship. Like.
Yeah, as long as you're working on becoming a better couple. If you're not, you're going to be the same couple or worse.
Right. But that's what I mean, like self-improvement books or business books or even ancient philosophy. Like you and your wife ought to be like both improving, that. And I just see a therapist as like as an extension of that. I see a therapist as like a trainer for your mind.
Sure.
But anyways, we were in there, and at one point during we were doing like role-playing difficult conversations with family because it's the holidays, and I was like, well, I'd say, I'd probably. She was like, what would you say in that situation, Dallas? And I was like, I'd probably say, what's your why? What's your purpose? What are you doing here? And then she goes to me, she says, well, Dallas, what's your why? What's your purpose? And I said, my purpose is to practice magic and slay dragons. So she didn't know exactly what to make of that.
We could change the title of the chapter. Assume your wife assume your wife you're listening to knows something that you don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's advice for married men.
That's a great piece of advice, and it's tough to remember. Like, she's in it. Like, she's having to deal with me as much as I'm having to deal with her.
Yeah.
Like that's a we're both having to deal with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her experience is that's what I'm saying. Like I'm my wife. I'm like she's making the wrong decisions. It's like how do I know?
Right. Exactly.
I'm for sure making the wrong decisions.
Right. Exactly.
I'm trying to slay dragons. Right?
And as you get older, you're like, oh, I know her. You get more sure about yourself. But I mean, that's what's cool about this rule is like, maybe all these years, maybe there's something more I can pull out of her or get out of her. Like maybe I really need to listen more. Maybe I don't know her.
Yeah.
Well,
and if we're learning, then we're going through these micro deaths and we're becoming new people. So you don't know her as time goes on.
Yeah, we did talk about the death thing in the past week a little bit.
It's like finding rot.
Yeah.
If you get rid of that rot, you're a new animal.
It's so hard to give up though.
And it's scary too. If someone takes some part of your foundation, you thought you knew this element of her, and she's changed. She's not that person. That can throw your whole world into chaos. So even though you're seeking order, the tail of the snake just gets you.
Yeah.
But even though that she may be a different person, aren't you always, as I'm always trying to be a different person. Like I'm trying to learn all of this right now. I'm trying to read what I can. I'm trying to be a different person. So why what should I fault her for being a different person?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And okay. I guess the tough thing is that you want to make sure that she's aimed in a direction that's positive, right? That she wants to improve, and you want to improve. But I don't know what you do in a relationship when one person wants to improve and the other doesn't. That's got to be very difficult.
That's when you walk in there and be open and have a knockdown, drag out fight.
Well, and it's like,
because wouldn't you want someone to do that to you?
Yeah.
What if you were fucking up, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if you were hooked on heroin?
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't you want your friends to come in and just fucking rip you out of that hole? Yeah. You'd want that, right? I mean, I don't know.
Well, you'd need that.
Yeah.
As guys, we'd need that. I mean, I feel like I'd need that.
That makes me wonder if we're all in the abyss. Because that's casting your pearls before swine, right? If one of your friends is hooked on heroin and you went in there and like tried to help him, right? That would be not you're doing the wrong thing.
Well,
I don't know.
And I think that's why interventions are not a sure success thing, but I think you have a higher chance of success. Like each of you could try to talk to this guy one-on-one, but if you all got in a group and you said, "Hey, man, we're all here because we love you," and you're fucking up. Like you have 3 people pointing the finger at you all at the same time in the same room, and they're there with love and pointing that finger. It's completely different than, fending off
what if that
three
person doesn't want to change? What if that person doesn't want to? Because we're talking about what if you're with a partner who doesn't want to grow.
I think that's the huge challenge because you can't make someone want to change. They've got to come from within.
Yeah, right? Just you know what, you don't want to. You don't want to. That's your choice.
And there's that whole concept of rock bottom, and sometimes that's why you gotta tough love. Like you gotta make life worse for them. Like, hey, look, I'm trying to get better. You're trying to get worse. Maybe we should look at a divorce. You know, and that puts them like, whoa, that might wake them up and like, hey, I'm gonna quit the drugs today. I'd rather. But
see, my problem with that is that in any relationship, no matter what, there's always gonna be one person that wants to change more than the other person.
And there's all sorts of dynamics
but just on the spectrum of change, right?
There's also like in a relationship like one person's more attracted than the other to the other person. Like there's like different levels of attraction. They're not equal. And so there's all sorts of like imbalanced dynamics that the relationship has to deal with.
So maybe it's this comes back to like a gender and stuff too, the imbalances are necessary evolutionarily.
Well, yeah.
But just across the dimension of change, though, one person's always got to dive into the abyss with the other person, right? So maybe that's the thing. We're all in the abyss, and we're all always going down. You just got to, make sure that you pick the right one and commit hard enough, and then maybe you'll come out the other side.
I think the easiest path is down.
So, I think as long as you're pointed up, as long as you're kicking and moving up, doesn't matter how far you're down in the abyss.
Yeah.
That means on a long enough timeline, you're going to make it.
The easiest thing is just to go down. And if you find somebody else that just wants to go up, you have varying degrees of wanting to go up. That's okay. Yeah. You still both want to go up.
Yeah, sometimes you get tired and you got to let the other person carry you.
What about in a business relationship, right? Your business partner doesn't want to change, right?
Like my story earlier.
And you're going up. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what do? Do you keep pointing up? Or do you sever the relationship because you say this is casting my pearls?
I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt that he wants to go up, so I'm trying to give him opportunities and listening to him. I really have to listen. Is he asking for advice? Is now a time to give him that advice? And then deliver advice when he's receptive to it, and make sure I don't give advice when he's not receptive because that's just going to put me in the doghouse. So listening plays a huge role in that, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully he'll ask for some. And I think there is some respect there because I am his elder, so there's some type of relies on me something.
You're saying because you're his elder.
There is evidence of that too. So he'll sometimes reach out to me like, I'm not sure how to best handle this or something.
But so you're saying you're cueing in to see if he's growth oriented and then paying attention and seeing if you see the.
Well, even if I don't have evidence he's group oriented, I am giving him the benefit of the doubt that he will be. But at the same time, you have to really listen and pay attention. Like, you don't want to throw pearls before swine, like we said. So I have to see if he's even if that prediction or that hope is actually actualized. Because if he's not wanting to improve or not looking for my advice and chooses to still treat me the way he's treating me, do I really want to? And I have to ask myself, do I really want to still spend time trying to do this? Am I really wasting my time? Am I throwing my pearls before swine?
Yeah. So you're saying there's a chance he could be not growth oriented?
Yeah, there could be a chance.
I wonder if you were just to ask him.
Yeah, I think I've had some conversations with him, but
not like just directly.
I've been waiting.
Isn't that weird? That's weird.
It is, right? Why is it weird?
Why can't you just say, "Hey, this is what I'm experiencing"?
I feel like
weird that's weird.
I feel like there's like a winter like chemical imbalance right now. There's like he's not getting enough sunlight. Like he's acting really irrationally recently. So I figured I can't treat him like a rational actor right now. I have to kind of pay attention to wait till he gets back into that rational. And that might be in the springtime. I don't know. It might be weather.
You're not being weird. Like I'm just reflecting on it. Isn't it weird that it's weird that you can't just talk to somebody like that? You can't just say.
But you need to feel better now, because you need to get back to work. No, seriously though, because this project. You guys are.
I'm not sure if he's involved in my solution. I think my solution right now is not involving him. I'm going to be talking about the issue with my friends and people I know and various social socials to get their input, their perspective, and maybe they have advice or something I didn't think of or a way of looking at it, or a question I haven't even asked myself yet that I can put into my model and see what happens.
Yeah, I was just making an assumption that you guys were like, but. Anyway, that would just be my one answer to, maybe it's seasonal affective disorder, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of my giving him the benefit of the doubt, like the least something wrong than what I'm really thinking.
Well, I
probably.
Yeah, do you guys want to wrap it up, or just to maybe as a closing? I was just wondering. I wanted to start with this, but we kind of like.
That's fine.
I was wondering how this is going. I saw that you guys are doing this. You got this meeting structure, this agenda that came from another Jordan Peterson meetup, and I was really excited about it, especially for the goals and accountability, because we've all been talking about that a lot. But how's it working with this agenda?
The first time we did it, since it was so new, we spent half an hour on the first part that's supposed to take 15 minutes. So we actually skipped the goals and accountability, except for at the very end, we had like a reminder at the end that was like, remember, we're going to have goals and accountability next week. So really think how you can practice Rule 8.
That was last week. Then this week we talked about it, and we talked about how the previous week, what we thought about and applied to our.
And Rule 8 was tell the truth or at least don't lie.
Right. And so we talked about how that impacted us, and a couple of people talked about it.
Yeah, I talked about my boss story, and people but there was someone else that brought something else up. I can really forget.
Yeah. The people talked about it. But it's one of those rolling things. So like this was the 2 days ago was the first time that we had a
goals and accountability recap
opportunity to try it out. Yeah.
So then it's like building the path in the snow.
Yeah.
We just got footprints right now. We need to get some more treading.
Right. So the next meeting we'll talk about how Rule 9 assume somebody has something good, something to tell you. How did talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say the second time we actually did do introductions again. So even though the second part was new to us, we were able to do both within 15 minutes, which was different.
True. Yeah.
And so getting better. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that we got better. Yeah.
And it was interesting in the introduction second time. It was everyone was a little more refined, so it was a little bit shorter, a little more concise, a little more rushed, but I think it was like straight to the point, where the first time everyone's kind of like, I don't know what to say.
Right. Because
very rambly but a little more expressive.
Okay.
Figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah. These things take time.
Constant process for iterating on, just like this podcast.
Did you guys have goals prepared? Because you guys put the agenda together. Like, how do you discuss your goals?
Well, it was at the end of Rule 8. I think we said, be prepared next week to talk about any type of success you had or troubles you had practicing Rule 8.
Yeah.
That's how we framed it.
Right.
So it wasn't everyone had to talk. It was just whoever wanted to say something. And when Rule 9 came around, when we started this, the question was, okay, did everyone have any problems trying to practice Rule 8 this week, or anything they want to say about practicing Rule 8? And that's how we framed it.
Oh, okay. So this is directly in response to the rule of the week, the goals and accountability.
It was.
Or the previous week.
It is for now.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
I
thought they were more personal.
It doesn't always need to be that way, and it can always be whatever you want to talk about. Take a minute to talk about. but it's always open for change.
Yeah.
But like, next week, hell, I'd love to talk about how somebody brought up, how you illustrated that I was just thinking about giving you advice instead of listening to your problem.
Yeah.
Like that, I would love to talk about that. So it would be an example of how the rule that we're talking about, that we talked about last week, how that applied, or how we saw that apply in our lives.
So that would be in the goal and accountability part?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and how that...
So like relevant experiences and...
My goal is to implement these things that we talked about in this chapter.
Okay.
And yeah.
Oh,
and we can always redefine goals, and we can always talk about it, but it's
yeah. So it's like to set the goal is to practice the rule, and then you would during this period you would talk about things that relate to the implementation of that goal.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, that was all I was wondering.
Do you have any suggestions on how to make that better?
Well, I don't know. I thought it was more like goals and accountability. Like we might set personal goals, and then by declaring them, to a group of people, then it would increase the likelihood that we would accomplish those goals.
Yeah, and I think that's what the spot is. That's what I think the accountability spot is like if you had anything to declare, that's the time to do it. But we haven't really framed it like that, and we probably should. And I think that's the really hard thing about like the rules and stuff is like how do you create, actionable items besides just do the rule.
Right.
It's very hard to do it, and I think it's also very easy to like try to come up with something for the group to do, but then it feels weird if everyone's supposed to do what one person come out. Where I think it's smarter to like break it into personal goals. Like everyone has their own goals, and they can declare it public if they want or privately, and they're gonna have to tweak it because everyone's situation is different, and they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. A lot of my initial pushback to something like this was I was thinking it was all gonna be like we're gonna come to a we're all agreement as a group that we're all gonna do this one thing over the next week, and that put a bad taste in my mouth, and I had to really think about it and talk with a couple different people before I realized it's the group thing. We all have individual personal goals. That's great, and then we can decide whether it's public or not. And I think that makes it a more powerful tool and more palatable too.
So what do you think about kind of splitting the difference, saying like, okay, well, here's what we talked about, and like if you want to try to implement something like that we talked about, then do that in this week, and that's kind of the easy de facto thing that you want to do. But if you have some more personal overarching goal that you want to talk about and speak aloud to us, and then report back on next week, because you're going to hold yourself in check to something like that. That could be useful for people too. So we kind of reframe that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think your problem is going to be framing the goal part, because I think goal setting is something that's very complex.
It's incredibly complex.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna want to give people context somehow.
I feel like and I want to make it really optional, really like not optional. That's not the right word, but really. Self-initiated. They're gonna do a goal because they said that they're gonna do a goal. It's not.
It's a resource. That part of the meeting is a resource if you want to use it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, here's my goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Kick it off. Prove it to yourself by telling us.
Yeah. Kinda. You don't have to say anything if you don't want.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And then other people can ask questions later. Hey, how's that going? Or want to update on that. I want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
And that public accountability helps you. Like, oh yeah, I haven't been good. I haven't been meaning to, but thanks for asking. Maybe I will try this next week so I don't embarrass myself.
Yeah. Or if you don't want to do that, you can talk about how the rule that we talked about in the previous week, how you implemented that through the week.
Yeah.
So you can do either.
Or give an excuse why you chose not to pursue that path anymore.
Or neither.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Or you should have some form questions that you ask every time.
Feels like it, huh?
Like for accountability, so people know what to expect.
Yeah.
Well,
what kind of question would you ask then?
Like you give the goal, and then I don't know exactly, but it would be something like what problem did you have meeting that goal this week? Why was it a problem? Right, and what are you going to do about it? Something like that.
Okay.
Well,
I was just thinking, for example, I would say, I wanted to be a task 1 doer this week, right? Or quadrant 1 doer this week, right?
Okay.
And then there would be the questions like, how did you do? It's like, I did bad. What happened? emotional problems. What can you do to deal with that? I got to do my mindset work. So something like that. That's what I'm thinking. But go ahead. Where are you going?
Oh, I was gonna say like more structure, more questions. Like we said, introductions, and one of the things we actually had a discussion. Well, what do we include in an introduction?
Right.
Steven was like, I don't want to say anything about me personally. I don't want to say what I do. I don't want to do. I'm more interested in talking about Peterson. So I'll tell you why I'm here and what I want to get out of it. And we're like, oh, okay, those are good questions. We wrote those down, and then we'll say, if you want to talk about who you are, you can. So we came up with a tentative list of questions based on his response. And that gives some structure. Like you said, came up with a list of questions. I really like those, yeah. Yes, and then those were to flesh out our introduction. So when we came back to next week, it was like, how do we do this again? I'm like, oh, I have this written down.
Yeah, you did. That was useful. That was very useful. You should incorporate that into the agenda.
Yeah, so we already actually did what you're talking about with question 1, but we should do that with goals and accountability. What questions do we answer in that,
Right.
What's rule specific, what's not rule specific?
I like that. Is this a copy for me?
It's my copy. I'm letting you borrow it.
Yeah, you can have it.
I think there's a couple.
I have this on the Google Drive.
Here, this is your copy now.
Perfect. Feel free to make edits.
Yeah, I got we printed 8 of them, and I think only I still have 7 in my office. I think only.
How are we doing on?
I really
like
stream time.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. It's probably been late for everyone who's tuning in extra and wants to move on to other things. It's almost 10. Yes, 10.
My wife is probably fuming.
Okay, guys. Good seeing everyone, and maybe we'll be back next week. We're gonna try to do this every week. All right.
Saturday.
Yeah.